सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। So yesterday we were seeing the topic, how does Bhagavan ensure his devotees? How does Bhagavan ensure that his devotees does this auspicious act of surrendering? Surrendering one's ego is the most auspicious thing. How does Bhagavan ensure that his devotees who have unknowingly developed some ego deep within their subconscious mind, unconsciously, unknowingly, how does Bhagavan remove it? So that's what we were discussing yesterday. So what did we see? The first thing Bhagavan does is he removes the support system, the worldly support systems. Because somewhere it is this worldly support system which creates pride in the devotee. The worldly system is giving me happiness. It is because of this worldly support system that I am peaceful. And this worldly support system has been gained by my own self-effort. So there is pride, there is lack of gratitude, there is absence of humility. So when all these things Bhagavan sees in a devotee, he decides to set him right. So how does he do? The first thing is Bhagavan removes the worldly support system. So what happens when worldly support systems are removed from a devotee? He becomes helpless. There is a calamity, there is a tragedy in life, and this worldly support system is no longer available to help him. So in such a choiceless situation, he has no other option but to surrender unto God. He is a devotee of Bhagavan. It's not that he is not a devotee. He is a devotee. So in such a situation, from the depth of his heart comes the prayer. sincerely he is able to surrender because the situation is such. And when he surrenders from the depth of his heart, naturally surrender means absence of ego. In that utter state of egolessness, Bhagavan blesses him and uplifts him. So what is the end result of this calamity? The devotee grows in devotion. The devotee grows in the faith of the Lord. The relationship between Bhagavan and the devotee, it becomes more strong. So because of all these reasons, we can say calamities are blessings in disguise. So that is why Bhagavan beautifully says, that's a very nice verse, it says, Yasyaham anugrinhami harishye tadhanam shanaihi tato dhanam tyajantyasya swajano dukkha dukkhitam sayada vithatodyogaha nirvinnasya dhane haya matpareh kritamaitrasya karishye madanugraham. Bhagavan says, Yasyaham anugrinhami. Whomever I want to bless them, those people, what do? Harishye tad dhanam shanaihi. I take away all their wealth. Those people whom I want to bless, what is the first thing Bhagavan does? He takes away the wealth from them. He makes him poor. Then what happens? Tato dhanam tyajantyasya swajano dukkha dukkhitam. And when this person becomes poor, all his wealth gone. So what is the attitude of swajana? His relatives. Tyajanti, they leave him. Yavad vitto parjana saktah tavan nija parivaru raktah paschat jivati jarjara dehe vartam kopi na pruchhati yehe. Bhajagovindam says, as long as you are a capable member, earning member in the family, everyone will love you, respect you, revere you, bow down to you. But when you become a useless member, maybe because of old age, etc., they will just discard you. In the same way, here also, what does Bhagavan do? He makes that person poor, takes away all his wealth, and then the relatives burden him. And then what happens to him? Dukkha dukkhitam. He becomes very, very sad. First of all, he is sad that there is no wealth. Wealth going away, he is already sad. Moreover, on top of it, relatives also abandon him. He becomes miserable. Then what does he do? Sayada vithata udyogaha. He strives hard to earn back the wealth. He does something because he thinks that it is a wealth which is giving everything to him. So therefore he strives hard to earn wealth back. Bhagavan says, I make it unsuccessful. I ensure that all his efforts become unsuccessful. And then finally what happens to him? Nirvinnasya dhaneha. He becomes totally dispassionate. When all his efforts have failed, he becomes dispassionate towards earning wealth. Then what happens? Matparehi kritamaitrasya. Then this person, of course by the grace of God, miserable person, trying to find the meaning of life, trying to find the purpose of life, all these questions start arising. Who am I? Why am I born here? Why there is so much of suffering? Etc., etc., etc. So many questions come. He becomes introspective. Suffering is one thing which makes a person introspective. He starts searching for the meaning of life, and it is at that time he comes across satsang. It is at that time he comes across devotees. Then what happens? He starts attending satsang. Mat parehi kritamaitrasya. Now the friend circle has changed. Earlier it was his friends and relatives, etc. Now What is his friend circle, or what is the company? His company is satsangis, the devotees of the Lord. And then Bhagavan says, once devotees of the Lord becomes his company, Karishye Madanugraham, I bless him. So true blessing of Bhagavan is satsang, because it is through satsang a person gains a right knowledge about life, and it is through satsang, satsangatve jivan muktihi. So this way I bless him. So what is the first step in blessing? Bhagavan says, Harishye tadhanam snehi. I make him worldly poor, so that the worldly people will reject him. So this is the nature of Bhagavan. So this we have to understand. All these calamities which come to our life, let us consider it as blessings. Only when calamities come, we hold on to him tightly. Otherwise, we are holding on to the worldly support system tightly. When will we hold on to Bhagavan tightly? When we know that other than Bhagavan there is nobody. And this Bhagavan, and this one fact that for us, other than Bhagavan there is nobody, this is a fact of life. When will we learn this fact of life? When we hold on to Bhagavan and when we see the results in our own life. These are the lessons which are not to be learned by studying. These are the lessons which we learn not by listening. These are the lessons which we will learn only by going through experiences. So that first, Bhagavan's grace and blessing is something to be experienced. We have to first step know the misery of worldly life. We have to experience the helplessness when all the worldly support system is removed. Any amount of study will not make us experience that helplessness. So in that helplessness we become miserable. That is also an experience. And when we become absolutely miserable, then only we enjoy the grace and blessings of the Lord. It becomes sweeter. To the extent we become miserable when the worldly support systems are removed, to that extent we become happy when Bhagavan's grace and blessings descend upon us. I am sure you must have heard this story. So here is a person who sees a dream. And what does he see in a dream? In that dream, so he is walking along the shore of the ocean, seashore. So he is walking and he turns back, and what does he see? He sees two pairs of footsteps. One he clearly recognizes, that of his. The other he knows that it is Bhagavan's footstep. So therefore he clearly feels that he is walking and Bhagavan is with him. So two pairs of footsteps he was able to clearly see on the seashore. As he walks, and then comes tragedies and calamities in life, problems in life, difficulties in life, sufferings in life. Helplessly he turns back to know whether Bhagavan is still with him or not. And then he finds that there is only one pair of footsteps now. He becomes very sad, very dejected. And then he prays, Bhagavan, this is the time when I badly needed you and you left me. At that time, a sweet inner voice of the Lord tells him, my dear child, the footstep which you are seeing is not your footsteps. It is mine. Means what? Now he is not the one who is walking. Bhagavan is the one who is walking and Bhagavan is carrying him. This experience we get only when we are devoid of all worldly support systems. We clearly feel that it is Bhagavan who is carrying us. So to feel that Bhagavan is the one who is carrying us, Bhagavan has no choice but to take away the worldly support system. This he does for his devotees. One army person had told his experience to me. Very touching experience, very touching incident. So this must have happened some 40-50 years back. So this army man, he was posted in Ladakh. So these helicopters, etc., they can only lift itself to a particular altitude. After that it can't. So what it does is, they drop the people there, and these people, they then climb the mountain and they go to the army camp. So in a similar such incident, this person was dropped from the helicopter at a particular altitude. He was all alone. So from there he was supposed to walk up high and reach the army camp. He was supposed to report to the duty. He was dropped there. Helicopter went away. It was snowing heavily. He had a huge backpack also. So with that backpack he had to walk. And then what happened? He lost his way. Just imagine. Everywhere snow. You can't make out which is the road, which is not. And there is no road also. He lost his way. All alone. Amidst an ocean of snow. Losing one's way. You can just imagine the condition of that person. No mobile, no way to contact anyone. All alone, stuck up there. He said, Swamiji, I was so scared. Because now the death is going to be starving unto death. Very painful death. Whom to contact? Whom to call? Whom to inform? Nobody. Totally lost the way. And in whichever direction you walk, 99% possibility is that you will lose the way. Because 360 degree, only one way is the right way, all the other ways are wrong. Just imagine his condition. He said, at that time, he just shouted, Krishna. From the depth of his heart came this call, Bhagavan, save me. I have nobody other than you. Please save me. He shouted. Nobody to listen. Only he is listening his own voice. He shouted. Time and again he shouted. Bhagavan, save me. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Around 5 minutes he did this. Not knowing where to go. And he felt a sense of strength when he chanted that name. There was some peace of mind. Mind was quietened a little. And then he intuitively felt that he should walk in a particular direction. Why he felt, he doesn't know. He did not know. But he felt strongly that he should walk in a particular direction. Listening to that inner voice, he kept on walking. He must have walked for around 5 to 10 minutes, and thus finally he reached the army camp. He says, Swamiji, this must have happened some 40-50 years back, but even today I remember that experience so vividly, clearly. It has gone deep into my mind. It has etched a strong impression. My faith in God has become so strong because of that one incident. Now I know that there is somebody with me who is taking care of me. Such experiences, I am sure all of us must have had in our own life, in small way, in big way. I am sure we all must have had such experiences in life. These experiences are necessary. The world is a laboratory. So first we study the theory. Studying the scripture is studying the theory. But then this theory becomes, only when it becomes our experience, then only we can say, yes, this knowledge has taken place in us. And this experience to happen, this laboratory called world is necessary. You must have read that story of atheist Swami. It comes in Living with Himalayan Master. The Swami Rama mentions about this Swami. Atheist Swami. Here is a person who became Swami in order to prove that there is no God. That was a mission in his life. And to prove that there is no God, he became a Swami. Logically, rationally, he would find reasons to prove that there is nothing called God. There is only cause-effect relationship. The whole world is nothing but cause-effect relationship. He was a very good orator. So therefore, naturally, he got a lot of applause everywhere. He was invited to very many places to give talks. Swami Rama thought I should teach him a lesson. A very beautiful story. Swami Rama takes him in order to, in the disguise of showing him the beauty of nature, he takes him to the top of this mountain when there is intense snowing. And when the snowing started, they put up the tent. The snowing was becoming intense. Then Swami Rama told him, see, few more minutes if this snowing continues, both of us will be buried under the snow. There is only one way to escape. You must chant the name of the Lord and seek His protection. This atheist Swami, throughout his life, he has dedicated to prove that there is no God. And now, to chant the name of Lord, it was impossible for him. He didn't. But the snowing continued, and slowly they were buried. They were getting buried under the tent. He was scared. Heartbeat started going up. Now he knew that death is near, and within few minutes, definitely he is going to be buried. Helplessly, finally, when he understood there is no other way, he started chanting the name of God. And believe it or not, it is said, within 1 minute, snowing stopped. He could not believe his eyes. His prayer, heartfelt prayer, was heard. He could not believe his eyes. And it is said, this Swamiji, after this particular incident, he became totally silent. It is said he would remain in his cave and he would not speak to anyone. He became a Mauni Swami. And if anyone would come to his cave and speak about God, his eyes would be filled with tears. Throughout his life, he never spoke anything. Such a big transformation happened after that particular incident. So such experiences are necessary. Calamities are blessing in disguise. Our prayer is very interesting. We are very clever people. What is our prayer? Bhagavan, don't give us calamities and all, but give us single pointed devotion. This is our condition. Bhagavan, without giving us problems and tragedies and calamities, make us wonderful devotee of yours. Give us Jnana, Bhakti, Vairagya, Samadhi, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam, give us everything, but don't give us problems, don't give us calamities. This is our prayer. It is like asking, Bhagavan, give us tasty food, but don't give us hunger. Now, is it ever possible? Food becomes tasty only when there is hunger. Suppose you are already full. How much ever tasty that food may be, you will not eat if you are already full. So, what gives taste to food? It is hunger. If you are intensely hungry, even dry rotis and watery dal will be very tasty for you. Isn't it? So, hunger is a must. In the same way you say, Bhagavan, don't give me thirst, but make this water nectarine. Not possible. Bhagavan, give me good sleep, refreshing sleep, deep sleep, but don't make me tired. Is it ever possible? To the extent you are tired, to that extent, sleep becomes refreshing and deep. So, this is the kind of prayer we have. To the extent we experience these calamities, to the extent we come to know the glory of God, the importance of God, the sweetness in His name, how sweet Bhagavan's name is, we come to know only when we are struggling. When Guru Arjan Dev, one of the Sikh Gurus, he was tortured by the Mughals. He was the one who compiled Guru Granth Sahib. So he had taken some reference from Quran also. So he was asked to cut off all those references from Quran. He said, no, in divine inspiration I have written it. I have no right to do it. The Lord has asked me to write, therefore I wrote. I can't do anything. Then the Mughal emperor said, then be ready to face the consequences. And then he was tortured. No food, no sleep, no water. He was made to sit on some hot, red hot iron sheet. He was made to sit in in a vessel with boiling water. He was tortured. And at that time, it is said, he said, Bhagavan, your name is the sweetest thing in this world. Your name is the one thing which is keeping me alive, and the one thing which is giving me peace and happiness. The sweetest thing in this world is your holy name. These are the words of Arjan Dev. We also chant Bhagavan's name and we find that there is no sweetness. We mechanically chant malas after malas and we wonder what sweetness is there. Compare his condition, Arjan Dev's condition, to your condition. Comfortably seated in the AC room with all necessary needs taken care, well taken care, very well surrounded by worldly support systems. And then we chant and then we say there is no sweetness. Haridas also, he was beaten
He was whipped in 25 different marketplaces. And what is the mistake or what is the crime he has done? He was chanting Bhagwan's name, Hindu God's name. He happened to be a Muslim. And he would say, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. The higher Muslim authority said, you are a Muslim and you are taking Hindu God's name. He said, how does it matter? God is only one. Whichever name you take, how does it matter? This is the name which I like the most. I will chant this name only. They said, then be ready to face the consequences. He said, fine, do whatever you want. He was taken to different marketplaces. Normally, a person cannot survive 10 to 20 whips. And here is a person who was taken to 25 different places, whipped 100 times at every place. He was alive. And finally, the 25th place, he was beaten. The guards were beating him. They felt the pain. And they asked, Haridas, why don't you stop chanting this name of God? You will escape all these beatings. Why don't you stop chanting? At that time, Haridas is supposed to have said, the pain which I undergo when I don't chant Bhagwan's name is much, much, much more than the pain which you are giving by whipping. That is nothing. The pain of whip is nothing compared to pain of not chanting Bhagwan's name. Can you imagine? As far as a devotee is concerned, external calamities are nothing. Forgetfulness of God is the greatest calamity. It is the one thing which gives greatest pain. That is why in Mukundamala there is a beautiful verse where Kulashekara Alvar prays, Naham vande tava charanayor dvandva hetoho kumbhipakam gurumapi hare narakam napanetum ramya rama mridutανulatam nandane pirantum bhave bhave hridaya bhavane bhavayeyam bhavantam diviva bhuviva mamastu vasah narake va narakantaka prakamam avadhirita sharadaravindav charanau te maranepi chintayani. Bhagavan, put me wherever you want. It doesn't matter. Whether it is Divi or Bhuvi, whether it is heaven or hell, it doesn't matter. My prayer is not that take me away from hell and put me in heaven. No. According to my prarabdha karma, whatever comes, let it come. I am not praying so that you should interfere and free me from all external pains. No, Bhagavan. My only request is, in my heart, may I always meditate upon you. My only request is, may I always have devotion at your lotus feet. Because Bhagavan, I know one thing. If my mind is in you, you are Ananda Swarupa, so definitely my experience will be Ananda Swarupa only. My happiness has nothing to do with my external surroundings. My happiness has only one thing, and what is that? The state of mind. And the state of mind depends on what the mind is thinking. If my mind is in you, then I am always happy. So therefore, Bhagavan, only one request. And the request is, may I always remember you. May I always have devotion at your lotus feet. So what does Bhagavan do? So as I said, he exposes us to calamities. Just like in order to enjoy the food, hunger is necessary. So if you say, Bhagavan give me tasty food, so what will Bhagavan give first? He will give hunger. He will not directly give you tasty food. He will first give you hunger, and that hunger will make the food tasty. So you'll always find that whenever you ask something, Bhagavan is giving just the opposite of that. So that's why there's a very famous and very nice quote. I'm sure you must have heard this. I asked God to give me wisdom, and He gave me problems to solve so that I may become wise. I asked God to give me strength, and He gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked God to give me courage, and He gave me dangers to overcome. I asked God to give me prosperity, and He put me amidst sweat and toil. I asked God to grant me patience, and He gave me tribulations to overcome. I asked God to make my spirit glow, and He put me through diseases, failures and insults, so that I have none else to depend upon but Him. In the end, I got nothing what I asked, but everything what I desired. A beautiful quote. In the end, I got nothing what I desired, nothing what I asked, but everything what I desired. So this is the nature of the world. This we have to understand. So when this understanding dawns in us, then we are able to face all ups and downs of life with an equanimous mind, with a prasada buddhi. We are able to accept everything with prasada buddhi. Whatever Bhagavan does is for my good. It is necessary, therefore Bhagavan is giving this. This attitude is very essential. Yes. Now we go to the next topic. What is the next topic? Next topic is, what happens to those people who don't have faith in God and who don't surrender also? Till now what have we discussed? We discussed about devotees who have faith in God. Now we are going to discuss about those devotees who don't surrender. Not only that they don't surrender, they don't have faith in God also. What happens to them? What happens to them? Well, as far as Bhagavan is concerned, he becomes absolutely helpless. Whatever assurances we have discussed, these assurances cannot benefit, cannot be any use to a person who has no faith in God and who refuses to surrender. It is exactly like a person inside the dark room, windows, doors closed. Can the sunlight enter into that dark room? Sunlight is ever ready to enter, but when the windows and doors are closed, the room remains dark and the person inside suffers. So who has to decide whether the light should enter or not? Sun cannot decide. The sunlight can only wait outside. If the sunlight has to enter, this person has to open the doors and windows. It is he who has to decide. So we must be very clear, these assurances will not work if we refuse to cooperate. I had given the example of drowning man. So here is a person who is ready to save him. What should the drowning man do? He should extend his hand. If he refuses to extend, the other person cannot do anything. The drowning man should have faith in the person who is ready to save him. Bhagavan Shankaracharya in his commentary gives the example of fire. So this is a wintry night. That person is shivering. No, nearby only there is a fire lit. The fire is giving its warmth all round, everywhere. The fire cannot go to the person who is suffering. The person has to come to the fire. Then the fire is capable of blessing him with its warmth. In the same way, Bhagavan becomes helpless when a person has no faith and when he doesn't surrender. There's a beautiful story. A painter had painted a picture, a beautiful picture. And what is the picture? Jesus Christ holding the lantern and knocking at a door. This is the picture. Jesus light in the darkness, holding a lit lantern and knocking a door. Very many people came to see the painting. They appreciated it. One person said he found a defect, a mistake in the painting. So he went to the painter and said, "Sir, the painting is wonderful, no doubt, but you have forgotten one thing." He took the painter, he showed the painting and said, "The painting is wonderful, Jesus knocking the door, but sir, you have forgotten one thing. You have forgotten to put the handle for the door. Every door will have a handle. You have forgotten that." The painter said, "It is no mistake. The handle is not outside, the handle is inside." The handle is inside means what? Jesus can only knock, he can't open. Who has to decide whether to open the door or not? Not Jesus, but the one who is inside, who is suffering that inside the room in darkness. He has to open. Life also is like that. We have to decide whether God should enter into our life or not. God is waiting outside, but we have to decide whether He should enter into our life and take charge of our life. Only when we allow Him can He enter. Just like a guest, He can ring the calling bell. But we are the one who has to open the door. Bhagavan is also like that. When we don't have faith, Bhagavan becomes helpless. I heard a very touching story. So here was this person who was climbing a mountain in the dark. It was a steep climb, something like a cliff. He was climbing. In the dark, he was not seeing anything, everything was dark. And suddenly he slipped and started falling. It was a free fall. And as he was falling, he shouted, "God, help me!" And suddenly, something happened. As he was falling, he could catch hold of some branch of some tree. He is not seeing anything. Somewhere his hands fell upon a branch of a tree. and then he held close to it. Now he is hanging, but he doesn't know where he is. So he kept on holding on to it tightly. But how long can he hold on? Again he cried out, Bhagavan, help me. Then from within he heard a voice, drop it. He looked around, nobody is there. And the voice clearly he could hear, drop it. Now he started thinking, if I drop, with great difficulty I am holding on to this, and if I drop, I'll be dead. He did not leave. Again he cried out, Bhagavan, save me. Again he heard the voice, drop it. He could not leave. Because his reason, his logic said, if you leave, you are dead. Hold on to it. Forget about this voice. Don't pay any attention to it. So throughout the night, in that cold winter, in that freezing night, he held on to that branch and remained there. Next day, the villagers come there, and what do they see? They see that here is a person who is lying dead, holding on to a branch just 1 foot above the ground. He had almost reached the ground, just 1 foot above. This is what happens when we don't have faith. Bhagavan becomes helpless. How many people are committing suicides every day? Why do they commit suicide? Some calamity. Calamity is fine, calamities come to everyone. But why do they commit suicide? They commit suicide because they don't have faith in God. Thousands of them are committing suicide every day. Even successful people are committing suicide. It's a wonder. Somewhere, all the worldly support system fail. They are face to face with a calamity. A devotee would have surrendered to God, but this person cannot surrender because he has no faith in God. He thinks everything is over, and then he puts an end to his life. How many cases we hear? It's only because of lack of faith. So how much we suffer because of this absence of faith in God? How much we suffer? Now a logical question may come, why is it that they don't surrender? Surrendering the ego, why do they find it so difficult? Is a natural question. Surrendering the ego is the most auspicious thing, but why do these people find it difficult to surrender their ego? The answer is not difficult to find. What is the answer? Every one of us, we make our belief system based on our analysis of our experiences. We go through experiences in the world. We analyze these experiences, and based on this analysis, we come to certain belief system. We come to certain understanding about life, and based on this understanding, we live. Now, what is the understanding of a person who refuses to surrender his ego? What is his understanding? Well, he also analyzes his life's experience and he finds that this ego is a very important thing in me. Because whenever I enhance this ego, I am happy. Whenever this ego is punctured, I am unhappy. Now look at the way he analyzes his life's experiences. Please understand, his analysis is devoid of any scriptural background. He has never attended any satsang. So his analysis is based on his own thinking, erroneous thinking, partial thinking, superficial thinking. So now what does he find? He finds that whenever this ego is pampered, I am happy. For example, someone praises me, I am very happy. And whenever this ego is punctured, I am unhappy. Insult gives me pain. Humiliation, insult, defeat, etc. gives me pain because my ego is hurt. Pampering of the ego gives me happiness. So therefore, what is the understanding he develops about life? In life, if you want to be happy, pamper the ego. This is the conclusion. So such a person, will he surrender? No. Surrendering of the ego is making the ego small. But what is his understanding? The bigger the ego, the greater the happiness. So what will he try to do throughout his life? He will try to expand his ego. How to expand the ego? Ahankara is expanded through mamakara. Aham and mama, they go together. Bigger house, bigger car, more luxury, more possessions and positions. This is how you expand your ego. I am not a nobody, I am a somebody. How big somebody are you? To the extent I have these possessions and positions and influence, to that extent I am big. And bigger the ego, greater the joy. This is understanding. Such a person, if you ask him to surrender, will he surrender? No, never. That is why these people don't surrender. They don't know that surrender gives a greater joy than egoistic joys. This person is only aware of the egoistic joys, and no doubt ego has its own joy. The joy of winning, the joy of conquering, the joy of defeating, the joy of expanding, the joy obtained through praise, through awards, through rewards, through recognition. These are all the joys of the ego. He is well aware of these joys, but he is not aware of the joy of surrender. According to him, egoistic joys are the true joys of life. So therefore, when you ask him to surrender your ego, he will say, why should I do it? Because according to him, whenever the ego has become small, it has only given pain to him. Whenever he was insulted, whenever he was defeated, whenever he was humiliated, ego was punctured and there was only pain. So therefore, when you say surrender your ego, he will refuse. But a spiritual person knows, only when you lose yourself, you gain your true self. Only when you lose your individual self, only then you will be qualified to gain your true self, the Supreme Self. This knowledge you get only from satsang. You get only from Mahatmas. Now this person has never attended such satsangs, never been exposed to Mahatmas. So naturally his thinking will be wrong. A drop, water drop falling in ocean. How will you analyze it? An egoistic person will say the drop is destroyed, drop is gone. It has become non-existent. Why? Because his attention is upon the name and form, not upon the content. The same event, ask a spiritual person, what is happening? A drop falling in an ocean. What will he say? The drop has become the ocean. The egoistic person will say, drop has become non-existent. It is destroyed. It is dead. What about the spiritual person say? What will the spiritual person say? He will say, the drop has become the ocean. Now see the difference. Event is the same, but see the analysis. One person is stuck with the name and form, so he sees the death of drop. The other person is not stuck with the name and form. His attention is upon the essence. The essence is water. So what has become? The water in the drop merges with the water in the ocean. Both become one, and so we can say the drop has become the ocean. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa once asked Vivekananda, at that time Narendra, suppose you are a fly and there is a cup filled with the juice of immortality. There is a cup filled to the brim with the juice of immortality, and you are a fly, you want to drink it. Where will you sit? Narendra said, well, I will sit at the brim and then drink from there. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, fool, I told you this is the juice of immortality. Why should you sit on the brim? Why don't you take a plunge into it? Because drowning in the juice of immortality, you will not die, because it is immortality. So what happens when you drown in immortality? Will you become dead? No, you become immortal. In the same way, in the ocean of Satchidananda, when the ego takes a plunge, he doesn't die. Yes, individuality goes, but his true self becomes clearly manifest. He comes to know that he is not the individual, he is the Supreme Self. So it is not that he is gone, but actually he is born. He is awakened. This fact the egoistic person doesn't know. So therefore he will refuse to surrender. He will refuse to minimize his ego. And because he refuses to surrender, and because he holds on to his ego, Bhagavan becomes helpless, because unless the ego goes, Bhagavan cannot enter. As Puja Gurudev used to say, when the ego enters, the Lord vanishes. And when the ego vanishes, the Lord enters. The problem with this egoistic person is he will not allow the ego to vanish. His life is ruled by the ego. So therefore he suffers untold miseries. And poor Bhagavan has no other choice but to be a mute witness to his sufferings. So this is the reason which Mahatmas give to the question, why there is so much of suffering in this world. All sufferings are self-created. It is not God-created. We create suffering for ourselves. What is the solution? The solution is allowing God to take charge of our life. More of this we will see tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।
शिवाय